Hi and welcome to History Legends. Here are the latest news about the Russo-Ukrainian war. NATO countries have stepped up weapon deliveries, also known as lethal aid. We'll take a look at what exactly they sent, how useful it can be in battle, and what it means for the course of this war. If we jump in on the map real quick, you can see that favorite tool that the front line is on the southeast of the country, whereas most of the logistics comes from western Ukraine, this area. And the goal is to bring all this stuff to the front line. I rarely say this, but make sure to watch until the end to really understand what is at stake right here on this map. And this quote from Napoleon will be extremely important. The amateurs discuss tactics, the professionals discuss logistics. You heard that well, so stay tuned. We're starting with some big news. Poland confirms it is sending tanks to Ukraine. Here it says, Poland had sent its first batch of 100 Soviet-designed T-72 tanks to Ukraine. Incredible! Finally! You might be wondering, why is sending Soviet-designed material to Ukraine a good idea? Put simply, it's because this is what the Ukrainian army is currently using. They have the ammo for it. They're familiar with all this equipment. They can literally jump in the new vehicles and ride to battle immediately. The main problem now is that most European countries got rid of their Soviet junk. Sorry, let me backtrack. I mean, most European countries gladly sent all their Soviet-designed military equipment to Ukraine. And this is what we'll check in a second. We go back to the Oryx website, and they have a section for heavy weaponry supplied to Ukraine. So if we go to the tank section, you can see right here 12 T-72 from the Czech Republic, which we should praise because nobody talks about them. They were basically the first ones to send heavy equipment to Ukraine. And I think we should praise the Czech Republic. Look at that. Czech companies to repair damaged Ukrainian tanks. It is said that the T-64 tanks would be repaired at privately held arms trading and production firm Czechoslovak Group, which is also one of the sources of equipment sent to Ukraine. And these factories can't be bombed by the Russians, so it's really great for Ukrainian forces. And then here there are the 100 T-72s we mentioned from Poland that were modernized and upgraded with thermal imagery. However, there's one country here that's missing. Slovakia! Here you can see the first evidence of ex-Slovak T-72 M1 tanks on the Donbass front line. In the end, Slovakia could provide Ukraine with about 22 T-72s. But one rising concern is that less and less European countries still have Soviet material left. If we look at T-72 operators and variants, on this list, many countries use T-72s, but not everyone is an ally of the United States. For example, here we have the Czech Republic. Somehow my brain still have trouble accepting the word Czechia. They still have quite some in storage, but not all of them are ready to send. I was surprised. Georgia has a significant amount, so this could be a country that could send its vehicles to Ukraine, but I don't know if they'll do it. Bulgaria has some amount of T-72s as well. Then we have Hungary, but they said that they don't want to take an active part in the war. Then you have Poland. Poland is the main country which has a lot of T-72s, and they sent the most modernized to Ukraine. But apart from these countries, all of them are on Russia's side. Now, if we go to this website called armedforces.eu, and we look for Poland, great website. They have, here you can see the amount of tanks officially that Poland has, but the most important is the breakdown. And you can see for T-72s, it's 382 that they have in reality. They sent 100 to Ukraine already. Theoretically, they can send another 280 to Ukraine. But what I was wondering is that, why are they not sending the good stuff? The Leopard 2A4, the Leopard 2A5, all the Leopard 2s. Why are they not sending the good stuff to Ukraine? to at least give them a fighting chance against Russia. Why are they sending old Soviet junk that was rusting in warehouses? Sneaky, sneaky Poles. They kept the good stuff for themselves. I'm just speculating, but it could also be because the Germans told them not to send these Leopard 2 because it's made in Germany to Ukraine to the front line. It could end up bad for marketing if you see tons of German Leopard 2 completely destroyed. Okay, now that I brought it up, I'm actually curious. Leopard 2 in battle. I want to know if they actually saw battle. Okay, did Leopard 2 ever see combat? Okay, yeah, in Afghanistan, but here. Oh, okay, check this out. Here, this section right here. A document published online listed ISIS as apparently having destroyed 10 of the supposedly invincible Leopard 2s, 5 reported by anti-tank missiles, 2 by mines or IEDs, 1 to rocket or mortar fire, what the hell, and others to more ambiguous causes. These photos confirm the destruction of at least 8. It would be bad for business for Germany to send good stuff to Ukraine and have it just destroyed. Nobody would buy their tanks anymore. But jokes aside, sending all this modern stuff to Ukraine requires an entire logistical pipeline. You need to train Ukrainian personnel. You need to give them proper ammo. You need to provide them spare parts. You have to put up and create workshops to repair the tanks and for maintenance and all this. It's possible, but not in the immediate case right now. And it's not only tanks. If you look at it, infantry fighting vehicles, again, Czech Republic, they sent a good amount, 60. It's not a lot overall, but it's better than nothing. Same thing here for artillery. We talked about how Estonia sent howitzers, Soviet-made howitzers. Czech Republic did the same thing. However, if we look at self-propelled artillery, once again, Czech Republic on the front line, they sent 20 plus unknown of 122 millimeter, and the Poles sent 20 as well. These are very important for modern warfare compared to towed artillery. In my opinion, towed artillery is like pretty vulnerable and useless. Now, sending Soviet equipment makes sense, but it can also backfire. The main problem is the general lack of spare parts in Europe. Tanks and armored vehicles from left and right because the production of new spare parts doesn't exist anymore. Or if it does, it's significantly reduced. Another problem is that a significant number of Ukrainian vehicles damaged or abandoned in firefights can be repaired, recycled, and even reused by the Russians. We don't want these vehicles to be flipped so easily by the enemy, especially since we know that the Russians are the attacking side. They're taking ground, everything left behind they can repair. This is why the Ukrainian military needs better. It was time for a serious upgrade from economy class to business class, something that I've yet to experience. And this is where NATO intervened. Put simply, the first real equipment sent from NATO members and other European countries were ATGMs, or anti-tank guided missiles, for the infantry to fight off Russian armored columns. Of course, we're talking about the infamous American Javelin, the British NLAW, the Swedish Carl Gustaf M4, the German Panzerfaust III, and even some of the French Milan anti-tank missiles. By March 7, less than 2 weeks into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the US and other NATO members had sent about 17,000 anti-tank missiles and 2,000 anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine. Alright guys, I want to settle this once and for all. What is better, Javelin or NLAW? Alright, check this out. NLAW is excellent at close range, from 20 to 600 meters. It is indispensable when combat actions take place in urban areas, cities, and villages. The Javelin is best at range of 1 to 2.5 kilometers in open field. Okay, the range of the Javelin is huge. And here it says both are very effective. So you need both because they're used in different ways. However, the problem of the NLAW, and this is according to Ukrainian forces, is that The Russian artillery now is much more used than previously in the conflict. So now what happens is that you have Russian drones looking specifically for these anti-tank squads. And the moment they get close to Russian armored columns, artillery comes in and in 10 seconds they blow the entire area away. Like it becomes a maze of fire. Overall, needless to say, these weapons are essential for the infantry to have a fighting chance against armored columns. However, to keep this battle going, they need new ammo. But according to the US Army, the production of javelins has been about 38,000 since production began in 1994. Every year, US forces use some missiles for training and testing. Thus, there may be only 20,000 to 25,000 remaining in the stockpiles. These 7,000 systems sent to Ukraine represent about 1/3 of the US total inventory. Now you'll tell me that the obvious answer is just to build more missiles and launch units. But currently, the United States have been producing Javelins missiles at a rate of 1,000 a year. They're so important that Ukraine said they wanted 500 Javelin anti-tank missiles and 500 Stingers anti-aircraft missiles per day. Every day they want that. That's 15,000 units of each per month. So the current yearly production of Javelins is worth 2 days of what Ukraine needs. 2 days! But there's also what we call manpads, man-portable air defense systems. Not to be confused with some other type of manpad. Okay, look at that. We have beautiful engines, and if we just add a space, we have something totally different. Manpads like the American Stinger or the British Starstreak are very important for the infantry to destroy enemy aircraft, like helicopters, fighter jets, and even drones that are very important for the Russian strategy of close air support. And once again, from what I've read, they're relatively easy to use. You don't need years of training. Problem is, the Stinger is out of production in the US, and it cannot be easily replaced. The last batch was ordered in 2003, and you know what? There are only about 8,000 left. Basically 2 weeks of what the Ukrainians need. So it's relatively new in history that for the first time the US has no other choice but to call their allies in support, to back them up, asking if they have any Javelin missiles left or Stingers. Oh yeah, I forgot, there's also the British LMM Martlet, another type of manpad. Honestly, I'm not an expert, so let me know in the comment section which one is best between the Stinger, the Starstreak, and the Martlet. So as you can see, the main problem is not only remaining stockpiles, but also production in every country. These weapons are not produced anymore, and if they are, not in such a great number that is needed for Ukraine to defend itself. And then there's another layer of problems. Every country uses a different type of missile. So when you ship this stuff to Ukraine, it creates some sort of logistical nightmare for combat units on the front line. So in a way, you need to keep track of what unit is using what type of missiles and everything. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. This is where we'll talk about international donations. To help Ukraine, every country is giving a bit of what they have. If we go back quickly to what every country has sent, you see here the US is also sending helicopters that were meant for Afghanistan. They're sending them to Ukraine, Soviet-made helicopters. Turkey sent Bayraktars TB2, but where's the new batch? I think that all the TB2s are now destroyed and that there's no more in stock. And that Turkey, since they're like in the middle with Ukraine and Russia, they don't seem to be sending more TB2s to Ukraine. But this is why the United States stepped up with loitering munitions, aka kamikaze drones. Look at that, Switchblade 300, Switchblade 600, all type of Switchblades, and you have multiple hundreds of these. Actually, what's the difference between a Switchblade 300 and a 600? Let me check. Switchblade 300 versus 600. Okay, here it says the 600 is bigger, whereas the Switchblade 300 can hit targets at a range of just 6 miles and can fly for 15 minutes. The 600 has a range of 25 miles and a flight time of 40 minutes. 15 minutes is quite short in flight time. And 6 miles, like, it's really for ground units. Whereas the 600, I guess it's more for artillery. I don't know, I'm just saying this according to the numbers. Then you have also the Phoenix Ghost 121, okay, which is a switchblade modified to suit Ukrainian requirements, okay. Then you have recon UAVs, very important, like we said, for artillery. To be more precise, every time you fire, you want the drone to help you correct the target. And then the US are sending 100, and wow, Denmark also sending 25. Anti-ship missiles, here Britain is gonna send some, but we don't know exactly how many, but they say it's Sea Spear. Apparently Canada also wanted to send some of their anti-ship missiles. Laser-guided rockets, United States, Poland, they always come back. Radars, Netherlands, US, and we talked about the tanks and all this. Armored personnel carriers. Okay, just to give you an idea, an armored personnel carrier like the M113, it's pretty old. I think it was used, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, by the Israelis during the 6-Day War, but I might be completely off. Then you have the British Spartan. All right, the Dutch are also sending theirs. YPR 765. YPR 765. Okay, so you see this one already has a turret, is more developed. Then you have infantry mobility vehicles. Okay, these are more like your Humvees. Okay, 100 Humvees. And then you have 72 tactical vehicles to tow the 155mm howitzers. These trucks are made to move troops or material like to the rear, not on the front line. They're not armored enough. And here you see 90 155mm howitzers, M198. Let's check it out. M198 howitzer. Okay, I see what it is. But again, the problem of these stationary towed artillery type is that the moment they're spotted by Russian artillery, they can't easily be moved around, so they might be destroyed quickly. Whereas self-propelled artillery, that I think is the next category, if they see shells falling right next to them, they can quickly move away. So in this section, there might be a lot of casualties. And look, Canada is also sending 4 of them. Pretty cool. Also not on the list, Australia sent 655mm M777 howitzers to the Polish city of Rzeszów and then to be sent to Ukraine. But what's surprising for self-propelled artillery is that apart from Czech Republic and Poland, the Netherlands are sending 6 to 8, and then you have the French. The French, I think it's the first major equipment that the French are sending to Ukraine, 10 to 12 Caesars. And I think they're currently training Ukrainian personnel in France to know how to use them. This is a quick tour of the heavy equipment sent to Ukraine by every country. On the 21st of April, Joe Biden sent another package of $800 million to Ukraine, which made for a total of $4 billion since the beginning of the Russian invasion. With the howitzers that we just saw, they're also sending 144,000 artillery shells. That's huge. Although I don't know what's the daily consumption of artillery on the Eastern Front. If you have an idea, let me know in the comment section. But this amount seems to be about 2,000 shells per cannon, per howitzer. So it's quite significant. And otherwise, there was this interesting article on Politico called "Heavy Weaponry Pours into Ukraine as Commanders Become More Desperate." And the question they ask, will Western artillery, tanks and drones get there in time? Those deliveries are coming amid increasingly desperate pleas from Ukrainian battlefield commanders as they endure withering Russian artillery and rocket fire that could last weeks or months. The deliveries are a significant advance from the small arms and Javelin anti-tank armor shipments that dominated the first 8 weeks of the fighting. Here we have the story of First Lieutenant Ivan Skoratovsky serving in the 25th Airborne Brigade. Here's what he says. The situation is very bad. Russian forces are using scorched earth tactics. They simply destroy everything with artillery shelling day and night. Can you imagine what shelling at night can do for the morale? Soldiers are hungry, tired, they're exhausted. He fears that if reinforcements in the form of manpower and heavy weaponry don't arrive in the next few days, his troops could find themselves in the same position as those in Mariupol. Why is nobody talking about this? His soldiers' situation are very desperate. He also says they're running dangerously low on ammunition, reduced to rationing bullets. He adds, I don't know how much strength we will have. And here it says the troops under his command around the city of Advivka near Donetsk. This is very interesting because originally the 25th Airborne Brigade is located between Izium and Balakleya. But now apparently they're fighting in this sector. A sector known to be constantly shelled by Russian forces. Skuratovsky had a message for the United States and other NATO countries. I would like to tell them that grenade launchers are good, but against airstrikes and heavy artillery we will not be able to hold for long. He continues with the most dramatic tone, people can no longer endure daily bombardments. Now the question is, how do we make sure that everything what we send will actually reach combat units on the front line? In easy words, we can't really guarantee. This is where the quote from Napoleon becomes very important. The professionals discuss logistics. It's one thing to produce and stockpile everything, it's another to get it to the men that need it. According to the German newspaper Deutsche Welle, while this international war effort signals a huge boost for Ukraine in its effort to repel Russian forces, there are concerns about the logistics involved and the potential obstacles. Questions surround the timing and the routes. Honestly, it's a bit like Amazon. It all starts when the supplier ships everything to a central fulfillment center, from which it is sent to another warehouse closer to the customer. As you can see here, and this is exactly what we can hear, it is all in major cities. And that's the last step before final delivery to your door. The process is approximately the same for weapon deliveries. The only difference is that Amazon doesn't get its warehouses bombed, obliterated by Russian missiles. So the Ukrainians need extra creativity to camouflage all the weapons they get in order not to be spotted by the Russians. Truth is, Russian missile strikes have been very hard on Ukrainian logistics. They can basically strike anywhere, anytime, and there's not much you can do apart from hoping the Russians run out of ammo. Many oil refineries and fuel depots have been targeted, which is a problem considering how much fuel armored vehicles chug on a daily basis. To understand the overall logistic situation, Ukrainian domestic refineries met only 46% of demand for gasoline and 14% of demand for diesel fuel. As you know, tanks only run on diesel. The fuel problem got even worse. The Kremenchuk oil refinery, the only one in the country, was permanently put out of commission on the 24th of April after being hit by 9 Russian missiles, which will further degrade Ukrainian armored combat capabilities. If we go back to my favorite map, if we can see that most weapons are sent from Poland to Ukraine, there's an increasing amount of fuel sent through Moldova and Romania. And according to the latest news, the bridge used to transit this fuel to Odessa was destroyed by a Russian missile. And look at that, from PBS. Here it says, Lviv has become a major gateway for NATO-supplied weapons. The Russians' attack on Lviv hit 3 military infrastructure facilities and an auto shop. Lviv, the biggest city and major transportation hub in western Ukraine. That's it. The weapons that are sent to Lviv are stockpiled somewhere, and the Russians target the place. So it can't be sent to the front. This is Poland, right here. This is Poland. All the stuff is sent from here to Lviv. Not only are the Russians targeting warehouses, but they're now striking railway lines and stations. Honestly, nobody understands why they didn't do it earlier. It's been 60 days. Logically, everybody expected one of the main targets to be the Ukrainian railway network. Okay, actually, I found a new map. 4 strikes here. Here's Kyiv, the capital. Here's Lviv. All railway lines attacked. So that means that the entire flow from weapons from western Ukraine to the capital and then towards the east, completely disrupted. So yeah, you can send all the stuff from Poland to Lviv, but it will stay in Lviv at this rate. And you see, there's not so many railway lines that you can use, so it's gonna be complicated. If they don't have the fuel to bring supplies, and they can't use railway lines, what's the solution? It's one thing to target all the railway stations in the west, but you can still bring stuff with civilian vehicles or any way to the front. So the Russians might attack the bridges on the Dnieper, here and here, for example. These are the lifelines of Ukraine. If you blow up the bridge, it's over. So I think they'll target it. So Ukrainians have to think of a way to replace those bridges and to find a way to bring all the supplies to the front. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare in Donbass just by pure attrition. Everyone, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of my analysis. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, if you like my work, if you want to support my videos, you can subscribe to my Patreon. The link is in the description. It helps a lot.